The Order of Radiant Dawn will tell you this world has always been theirs to protect. They will show you their cathedrals, their registries, their inquisitors moving through city streets at dawn. They will point to the Concordat, that great treaty, that founding document of the current age, and tell you it was the moment civilization was saved. And in a way, they are not wrong. The world was saved. What they will not tell you, what they have spent 1,000 years making sure you never ask, is who built it in the first place. Because the 5 trees were not given to the Order of Radiant Dawn. The Order simply got there after the disaster, planted their flag in the rubble, and called it divine mandate. If you were born in the Central Kingdoms, under the shadow of the Order's great institutions, within earshot of their morning prayers, this is what you would be taught. The world is held in balance by 5 sacred trees. Each one anchors an elemental force: fire, water, earth, air, and lightning. They are ancient beyond reckoning. They are holy. They are protected by the divine mandate of the Order of Radiant Dawn, whose clerics, paladins, and inquisitors maintain the natural order that keeps the world from falling back into chaos. Elemental magic, the kind that flows through bloodlines, the kind that answers to the trees themselves, is dangerous, unpredictable, a corruption of the natural order to be registered, monitored, and contained. Divine magic, the light granted by devotion and prayer, the kind the Order wields, is pure, sanctioned, the only proper relationship between a mortal and the forces that govern this world. This is a tidy story. It is also missing about 3,000 years. Long before the Order, long before the Concordat, long before the first cathedral was built over the bones of a world that had already survived catastrophe, there was an age that most people alive today have never heard of. The texts call it the Age of Guardians, and to understand it, you have to go back further still, back to the beginning. The world did not begin in order. It began in chaos, raw, churning, elemental force without direction. And into that chaos came 5 primordial beings, not gods, not clerics, not the ancestors of any institution that exists today. 5 beings of immense power, each drawn to a different fundamental aspect of existence. One shaped fire, one shaped water, one shaped earth, one shaped air, one shaped lightning. And together, they did something extraordinary. They planted the 5 trees, not as monuments, not as holy relics to be worshipped from a safe distance. They planted them as anchors, as living structures that would hold the elemental forces of the world in balance with each other. The trees were the solution to the chaos. They were the architecture of a livable world. And then the primordial beings did something the Order never teaches. They stepped back. They chose guardians, families, from every race that walked the world. Humans, elves, dwarves, all of them represented. Each guardian family was bound to a specific tree, attuned to its element, charged with its protection. These were not priests. They were not servants of an institution. They were stewards of a living system, and their connection to the trees ran through their blood. Over millennia, those guardian bloodlines spread. Their descendants populated the world, and in the descendants of those original families, the elemental forces of the trees still echo, manifesting as powers that the Order of Radiant Dawn now classifies as dangerous, deviant, requiring registration and control. There is a young woman in this story, a half-elf named Kiana, whose lightning manifests in moments of extreme emotion, whose connection to the storm she carries is something she cannot turn off and cannot fully explain. She is not a deviation. She is not a threat to the natural order. She is an heir to it. But to understand why that distinction matters, To understand why the Order works so hard to ensure that people like Kiana never learn what they actually are, we have to understand what happened to the world that the Guardians built, because it happened before. All of it. And the Order knows. 3,000 years ago, the Age of Guardians ended. Not gradually, not through some slow cultural shift. It ended because a group of mages decided that what the trees offered to the world, steady, distributed, living elemental power, was not enough for them. They wanted to harvest it, to concentrate it, to take what 5 primordial beings had designed as a balance system and convert it into a weapon, or a throne, or both. We do not know exactly what they expected to happen. We know exactly what actually happened. The event that followed destroyed the world as it had existed. Continents reshaped. New geographical features appeared from nothing. The magical currents that the trees had spent thousands of years stabilizing were thrown into chaos. Populations were displaced. Entire civilizations fell in the weeks and months that followed. This is what the Order calls the Cataclysm. And here is what they do not prominently advertise. The Order of Radiant Dawn did not prevent the Cataclysm. They did not see it coming. They did not sacrifice themselves to stop it. They arrived after. When the world was broken, when the Guardian families had been scattered or destroyed, when the ordinary people of the realm had nothing to hold on to, the precursors of what would become the Order of Radiant Dawn stepped into the vacuum. They offered healing, organization, stability. They were not wrong to do so. The world needed what they offered. But there is a difference between helping rebuild a house and claiming you designed it. The Order built their theology on the bones of a catastrophe they did not cause and could not have prevented. And over the following 2,000 years, they made sure their version of history was the only one being taught. 1,000 years after the Cataclysm, the world faced a new kind of fracture. Not geological this time, political. The question at the center of what historians call the Arcane Wars was deceptively simple. Who has the right to use magic, and on whose authority? On one side, divine magic practitioners, increasingly organized under what would become the Order of Radiant Dawn, claiming their power came from sanctioned divine sources and therefore carried legitimate authority. On the other, elemental and arcane magic users, many of them descendants of the original Guardian bloodlines, who had been practicing their craft for generations and saw no reason why an institution that arrived after the Cataclysm had the right to determine their legitimacy. The wars lasted decades. They were brutal, complicated, and deeply personal. Because unlike most wars over territory or resources, this one was about identity. About whether the power you were born with made you a citizen or a criminal. They ended with the Concordat. The Concordat established the framework that still governs the world of brighter realms today. Divine magic, institutionalized, legitimate, central to governance. Elemental and arcane magic, tolerated in registered, monitored forms, subject to inquisitorial oversight. Unregistered elemental magic users, effectively outlaws. It was framed as a peace treaty. It was, in practice, a declaration of victory. And here is what the Concordat encoded into law that the Order had spent 1,000 years quietly working toward. The idea that the elemental magic flowing through the Guardian bloodlines was inherently suspect. That the power the 5 trees had spent 3,000 years distributing through families of every race was a dangerous deviation from the proper order, rather than the original order itself. The Guardians' heirs became the regulated class, and the Order, which had arrived after the world broke, which had no bloodline connection to the trees, which derived its power not from the living elemental system, but from devotion to the divine, became its official stewards. Think about what that means. The people with the deepest, most ancient connection to the 5 trees were classified as the most dangerous threat to them. But there is something else. Something the Order does not teach, and something that the Guardian bloodline traditions have only preserved in fragments. When the primordial beings shaped the world from chaos, there were not 5 of them. There were 6. The 6th being represented light, order, the principle that chaos should be resolved, that the world's natural tendency toward flux and variation and elemental force should be replaced with something more controlled, more permanent. The other 5 were willing to live with chaos, to anchor it, balance it, tend it, but not eliminate it. They understood that the world's diversity of forces was not a problem to be solved. It was the condition of life itself. The 6th being did not agree. And so when the 5 trees were planted, when the 5 primordials chose their guardians and stepped back from the world, the 6th being withdrew, refusing to participate in a system it considered flawed, incomplete. It withdrew, and it made a vow. It would return when the world had matured enough for perfect order. What does perfect order mean for a primordial being who believes the world's elemental diversity is a flaw? It means no chaos, no uncontrolled elemental forces, no guardian bloodlines distributing power through the population without institutional approval, no system in which a half-elf in a village market can accidentally call down lightning because the blood of an ancient guardian runs through her veins. It means a 6th tree, one that does not anchor an elemental force, because element is variation, and variation is chaos, but instead imposes something the 6th being has always believed the world should have had from the beginning, and it has found its vessel. His name is Thargram. He lost his family to elemental violence 70 years ago, a radical faction called the Unfettered, whose attacks left him with a wound that never healed and a certainty that hardened over decades into something indistinguishable from religious conviction. He believes he serves the light. He believes his campaign against elemental magic, the registries, the inquisitors, the systematic dismantling of the Guardian bloodline traditions, is an act of righteous protection. He has no idea that what he believes is divine calling is actually something much older than any god, something that was waiting for exactly the right broken man, with exactly the right grief, and exactly the right access to institutional power. Thargram is not the villain of this story because he is evil. He is the villain because he is being used by a force that preceded him by thousands of years, that shaped the conditions of his trauma, that has been patiently cultivating the Order's theology for a millennium, to finish something that should never have been started.